All right, awesome. We're live. Coffee with Callum. Although I've got English breakfast tea. What have you got?
A Heineken,
Yeah.
a bottle of happiness.
What a surprise! The Aussie.
Well, I
Aussies
had
don't-
coffee before, and it's 7:30 over here, so too much coffee at this time of the night, I'll never get to sleep. So I sleep better with a beer. I don't know how that works.
It works. It works. So, talk to me, mate. You are involved in tons of different stuff. Tell me what's the most interesting thing that's come across your radar recently in the world of business.
Wow, in the world of business, organisations who are, they're fighting AI. They're complaining about it. They're bitching about it. They're moaning about it.
Yeah.
Let's just embrace the thing and move on, because there's nothing we can do to stop it. So we may as well make it our friend and work out how we can use it to our advantage.
Hmm. So is this, where are they coming from? From the point of view of I'm going to lose my job, or?
Yeah. A number of them are coming from the point of view of I'm creating a business, I'm setting up a business, and AI is going to take it over. AI will make me obsolete, and they get themselves quite worked up about it. And I love those conversations because I don't see that being the case at all, and certainly in our lifetimes anyway. It's all about delivering people to people service. We all forget about this stuff. We all forget about that. There's a human element and a human component in what we do.
Yeah.
I think
The other thing to remember is, like, it's fascinating to watch, and it's developing very quickly. But you and I were around for the internet, like the birth of that, and how exciting that was. But it took a long time to go from being, this is a novelty app, and everyone at the time was like, oh, this is going to wipe out this section of the business and this. And ultimately it did, but it took like 20 plus years, and it sort of stuff migrated around it. So yeah, I don't think I guess that's part of that sort of scarcity mindset type thing. Whereas I think when you're an entrepreneur, you have to work on the basis that everything's an opportunity. Otherwise, you'd go insane.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing also is that, if we look back to the evolution of the internet in our working lives, the products that were the kings of the kids when they were released, I think it was it Netscape, the browser?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Where is that? What is that? I had to think about that. Its name there for a moment. Yet that was the most important thing that came out. And, what we see as AI now, or ChatGPT or Bard or whatever, Gemini, call it whatever you will, that's just where it entered the market. How it will then make a real difference will be, I believe, a very different story.
So really, like, hijacking this topic a little bit to bring it to my world of investors, but it's kind of relevant, is if you were to go back to kind of the late 90s or the mid 90s, and you were in that world of the internet is going to take off and take over, and you were placing bets. So you're an investor, and you were placing bets, and you said, okay, I think e-commerce is a surefire thing, and I think search engines are a surefire thing, and you were to place bets on a bunch of companies in that area. Directionally, you were absolutely correct, but almost every search engine died. Like only one survived, and almost every e-commerce platform in those days, apart from Amazon, died as well. Like all of those individual company ones, Toys R Us and all those kind of ones, all sort of fell away. So you could be absolutely right about the direction and completely wrong on the individual bets. But what's even more interesting than that is, if you look at Google and Amazon today, 99%, actually might be 95, but like an incredibly high percent of their total value was created after they went public. So if you think, like, Google went public, I think it was like 85 million. It was
Yeah,
tiny little thing. Now it's this
yeah,
massive juggernaut.
yeah,
And so yes, of course, there was a few people that got the right bet at the right time.
yeah,
But I think it's a useful reminder that it's so difficult to kind of foresee how these things, you can kind of get the direction, but trying to get the specifics, trying to tell the future is
yeah.
really difficult.
It's really difficult. So when you talk back mid-90s, I go back, and mid-90s, I was working for Apple. I was halfway through my evolution at Apple. I started there in 1992, finished up there in 2001. And during that time that I started the company, they had a product called a quick take camera. I don't know whether you may remember that name at all, but it was the first real digital camera. It took a photo, you connected it to your Mac, your computer, and you uploaded an image. And that was the bee's knees. In those days, its competition was Kodak. Remember that company?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course it was.
You
Yeah.
know,
Who built the first digital camera and then sat on it?
sat on, did nothing to it.
Yeah.
Apple came along, it released its camera, and it didn't really take off. In the same era, the Newton was developed, the Apple handheld device.
Yeah.
Really, in a lot of respects, the forerunner to the iPhone.
Mm.
You know, you needed a stylus to record information, and you know these products come on the market. AI, ChatGPT, to bring it back to what we're talking about, came onto the marketplace. Everybody sort of gets, half the people panic and think it's the end of the world and they're losing their jobs. The other part of the people, the investors, the entrepreneurs, think, wow, this is interesting. This is opportunity.
Yeah.
How can we get involved in some way? And those products that started that trend, that evolution, died away. And other specialist products, which is to your point, other specialist products were developed and got released in the market.
Yeah. Are you, so in your own business or in your clients' businesses, is it becoming a relied on tool, or is it still a bit of a novelty factor? Like, you use it from time to time for a bit of copywriting or that sort of stuff, or has it become more than that for you yet?
Yeah, interesting. So in my own business, it's a wonderful research tool, and it cuts an awful lot of time down. You know, and you know, I'm in the process now of writing another book, and I was wanting to do a chapter summary.
Right.
Summary of the chapters, take some main points out of it. It's all my words. So I go and put that in a ChatGPT, create for me a chapter summary. It's just doing this, it's doing the smarts. I would have sat there with a highlighting pen and I would have marked the key points and then taken those out and then put them together and wordsmithed it.
Yeah.
ChatGPT just saved me a lot of time.
Your books tend to be like war and peace anyway, your books.
Yeah, I got something to say. You know, that's how it works. But yeah, so that saves a lot of time. So the entrepreneurs out there, they're the ones who are embracing this. It's the big organizations, the big dinosaurs that, you know, are really hard to move. They're the ones that are like, oh, no, we don't, no AI here, please. We are very cautious of it. We're very protective of it. We're protective of our own IP. And it's the young entrepreneurs that go, wow, this is bloody great. This has opened up a whole new world.
Yeah, I mean, this is the perpetual cycle of entrepreneurship, isn't it? Because you have that kind of disruptors space where young companies coming into the market have nothing to lose, and so they can experiment and they can put everything on in AI from day one, and it takes some. It's pretty hard to disrupt your own business. Like it takes some pretty strong leadership and uncomfortable conversations to do that. So cool. What else is
interesting?
New? Anything that you're doing in your own business that's sort of new since we last chatted, or?
Yeah, well, I've just my book's now gone to the to the publisher to get some editing done, and we're hoping that'll come out in probably end of August, maybe like early September.
Cool. You did say to them they could edit anything apart from my quote, which is untouchable.
Correct.
Yeah?
Do not touch Callum's quote. Those words are his words, and they shall forever will remain. But yeah, they're cutting down my brain dump into hopefully the King's English.
Nice.
Which is a good thing. So yeah, that's been a wonderful. I just love the writing experience. You know, being able to sit down and.
It's very valuable. Like, it's very valuable for just to force yourself to have some time alone with yourself. I think is quite valuable. But that idea of trying to clarify your own thoughts so that somebody else can understand them is so valuable. Like, it makes everything so much better. Like, it's there's so much stuff that we kind of know, but it's like kind of fog of war up there until we actually sit down and try and figure out how somebody else could use that. So yeah, I can completely agree.
And the process for me, and certainly the journey is very much part of the reward. I just love the idea of being able to have that time for myself. You know, I've set up my list, and I've got an 8-hour block perhaps on a Saturday to write, and you know, the family, we kind of worked around it, so I've got that space, and I just get so engrossed in it. It is amazing. Love the feeling of it. So cathartic. It's so just, you know, helps clear the buffer out for the next week.
For me, it's long distance flight. That's my time. Like, it's 7 hours. I've got somebody bringing me food and coffee. I never turn the internet on. So like, I'll do any research tabs in the airport lounge beforehand. I'll get everything that I need. And then, so I don't have there's no kids, there's no staff, there's no clients, just 7 hours of coffee, snacks, and alone time with my laptop. It's perfect.
It's wonderful. And you know, the distractions is gone. There is nothing. There is nothing to do. Everything else has been turned off, and kind of love that space. That's always worked well for me.
And I've read a lot of stuff from professional writers, and Cal Newport with his deep work concepts, and musicians as well. Like, a lot of people say you basically have to vomit out quite a lot of content to clear the brain before the really interesting stuff comes. And I find that to be so true. Like, it's very difficult for me to kind of force myself to get in, which is why planes are perfect for me.
Yes.
But to know that, okay, maybe the first hour of work probably isn't going to be the best work that I do, but I got to get that out of the way so that I can free up my brain to actually start articulating well.
Isn't that nice? It's really interesting because when you tell me the story of how free you feel, your face lights up, your eyes light up. It's, you know, this is Callum's he's going back to his happy spot.
Yeah, good. It definitely works. It definitely works.
Very healthy.
And I also find, so the flight from Singapore to Dubai is like 7 hours. And the amount of times I will be doing, like, I'll get in, I'll do that bit of work, and then I'll go and meet my business partner after. I've got this idea, and I've got this idea. So
you're all fired up.
Come out. He's like, oh God.
Interesting. It's a good way to be. It's a healthy way to be. But you know, it's something else. Just changing topic slightly.
Yeah.
As an entrepreneur, I've got to tell you, I'm just loving watching Taylor Swift deliver amazing value to her community. She's so well connected with her community. It's extraordinary.
Yeah. Big
fan. The whole world's gone nuts.
Yeah. So she was here in Singapore about 6 months ago, and she increased the GDP of the country. Like,
Wow.
that's
Wow.
insane. So she did, I think she did like 3 or 4, maybe 5 dates in the end. And they were the only ones she did in Southeast Asia. So we had people just flew in from all over the world to be here.
Yep.
She's clearly an amazing performer and right at the top of her game at the moment. But the amount of money, and I think so the Singapore government, like Singaporeans were criticizing the government because they had paid something crazy, like 3 million, like I mean nothing in the scheme of things, to make the tour exclusive in Singapore. So like if she was going to
Right.
be in Southeast Asia, it had to be Singapore, nowhere else. She couldn't bounce to
Right.
Singapore. Which she was fine with because it's also got the best stadium and the best sort of facilities and stuff, but it's equally the most expensive city in Southeast Asia, if not the world.
Yes. Yes.
And so there was kind of the argument that, well, like if you're in Indonesia or the Philippines or Thailand, you got to fly to Singapore, you got to stay in an expensive hotel and stay. But that deal that the government, that was worth billions to the economy. Like the leverage there is just incredible. And it was clearly eye-opening to a lot of countries. So I know Taiwan, South Korea, they all started looking at, okay, we need to be getting a little bit more creative to attract talent here because it attracts more people in. And the Singapore government did that with Formula One very, very successfully as well.
Yes.
It's a great showcase for the country.
It is. And good on the country for having the you know, the I was going to say the balls to do it. Yes. To be able to do it, you know, it usually goes against what everybody else is thinking. It's going to be subject to a whole lot of criticism, especially from other countries. I mean, I read an article a couple of days ago about, I think it was a stadium in the Philippines, in Manila. They're looking at building for the Taylor Swift tour in 3 years' time. They need to make the biggest, largest, whatever, so they can have their fair share.
Yeah.
Interesting, eh?
Well, and amazing once you, like, from her perspective, and sort of, well, we knew this from KPI, but the minute you get an audience around you, you can leverage that audience, and even if that's 5 people, you've got a little bit of leverage. 50 people, you've got a bit more leverage. But when you can fill a stadium, you've got leverage.
Well, she was here in February in Melbourne, and she played at the famous MCG, which has a capacity of 101,000 people, I think, and she filled it up with 98,000 or 96,000 every night for 3 nights, and the town went nuts. It's just it's fantastic, and it's so good. It's so good for her audience to go to somewhere that's relatively safe.
Yep.
And be themselves and share their passion, share their love, share their camaraderie with all these other strangers. In the world we live in today, it's just a healthy thing.
What's your business takeaway from that? What does the average entrepreneur that doesn't look good in a sparkly dress and doesn't have a voice, what do they take away from what she's doing?
Look, the smart entrepreneurs will realize that what she has is this incredible connection with her community.
Right.
And her community will spend money on buying albums, buying products, buying, all the components of the exercise. She's got a complete product ecosystem, and people can come in and buy multiple times. And I read somewhere that she produces an album on vinyl. Remember the old days of vinyl? But she can produce an album on vinyl in multiple colours. So people are not only buying just black, They're buying the pink one
Right.
and the blue one and the purple one and so on.
And presumably there's some exclusivity around. There's only 1,000 blue ones being printed and
Yeah,
all that kind of good stuff
yeah.
as well. Yeah.
But she connects with her audience, right? And the audience only support her. And just imagine what it's like to play in front of an audience. Doesn't matter whether it's 5,000 people or 100,000 people, and they all sing your songs.
Yeah.
They all know a sentence out of your book, word perfect.
Yeah.
The connection with that is extraordinary.
Yeah.
But you know, she's so far so good. There's no inappropriate photographs of her. There's no scandals. There's no, there's nothing. And good on her for keeping it tight and looking after the people in her world that are important. I think that's a really good lesson for all businesses.
Mm.
She looks after her roadies, her band, her promoters, her ecosystem is extraordinary.
Yeah, it's protecting the brand. That's good.
Yeah.
I mean, I think so. I've been looking at there's a lot of sport on at the moment, which obviously it's some summer of sport. There's lots going on, and you kind of look at some of these kids, like the 16-year-old Spanish kid that is the star of the Euros and playing in front of a stadium that's chanting your name, earning insane money when you're just a kid. It's a lot of pressure, and it's
enormous amount of pressure.
It's no surprise that so many of them go off the rails. Having the maturity to try and deal with that much expectation on you is pretty tough. Fortunately we don't have that, but I like to think we have the maturity to deal with it if it came about.
Yeah, correct. Although you look at, we talked before we went live about a golfing story. There's Rory McIlroy in the US Open a couple of weeks ago, and he misses a 2-foot putt that he could do in his sleep 100 times over. And the pressure of that situation, that pressure of that moment, being able to just shut out all that stuff and your own monkey on your back and the own voice in the back of your head. And it's, the pressure on sports stars, performers, it's extraordinary. They deserve, in my opinion, they deserve the money.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, ultimately it's a business transaction. If other people can't make more money out of paying them that, they won't do it, or it's short-lived. So on the topic of golf, I know you've just got into it. Did you follow any of the PGA Live Tour battle over the last few years?
Yeah, I have. I followed it a lot, and I've read a book, Live and Let Die.
Okay,
I think it's called. Play on words. Alan Shipnuck is interesting surname, nearly like Finkelstein, right? But he wrote a book about, he's an American sports journalist and broadcaster, and he wrote a book about what's happened with all that. But you understand the cricket world. Is this not what happened with World Series cricket back in the 70s, where it was privately built up their own tour and they got their own players and they handpicked all the best players in the world, paid them a bucket load of money, put them in coloured outfits and put on some lights at a sporting arena and played night cricket for the first time.
Yeah, and then 2020 came along and did it, and in boxing it was the same thing. You had like one organization, now there's dozens of organizations, and
absolutely,
it's quite what I found quite interesting about it. Like, and it's clearly, these things play out in the media eye these days. So you get, and especially with kind of the Netflix documentaries behind the scenes and stuff, you get some really interesting background of it. But I've been following. I've got an office in Dubai. We've got clients in Saudi. So I've been sort of following their incredible growth towards sort of being more progressive and really doing some incredibly good stuff. And I know that they've got a legacy that's dark. But I also, when I went back and I looked at when the PGA started in, like, I think it was 1918 or something in the US, and I don't think women could vote. There was a lot of segregation still, and yet their big argument against Live was, well, you shouldn't be in bed with people that have a bad history, and even if they are trying to change, and it all kind of just felt a little bit hypocritical, and we don't want this to go away. But I think it was Rory was the one that ultimately kind of had his legs taken out from underneath him with that announcement that, all right, forget all that. If there's enough money involved, we'll play nicely.
Exactly. But also, you know, this is hopefully common sense prevails, and, you know, the golfing world is not like professional soccer or you know, Premier League in the UK or some of the other sporting leagues around the world. The best players attract the TV viewing, attract the visitors, and those best players aren't playing at not all of them are playing in the PGA Tour, and they need to work a way to bring it all together as one. And the live golfers can then have the experience of playing on different courses and competing in some of the important events that are the showcase events, which are the majors. And it needs to come together as one.
I think, I mean, sport's a really interesting one, but I think it all ties back to business, because ultimately they are all businesses. But there is, I think in sport, you get a lot of clinging on to tradition. And look, there's a lot to be said for that. And, you know, in any sport, there, you know, these traditions that are 100 years old, and it's great to have those traditions. At the same time, there's always going to be people that come along and go, hang around, I don't care about that. What I care about is something sharp, and like I don't want to sit and watch a 5-day international. You know, I want music, I want cheerleaders, I want and there's a market for that, and I think it's quite difficult for those organizations to try and balance that. And you know, Formula One has you know, Bernie Ecclestone for a long time was, he said, look, there's no point trying to get the youth into Formula One. They've got no money. I don't care about them. Sponsors want the elder generation, like the people with money. And yeah, there was some validity to that, albeit fairly limited shelf life. But when the new guys came in, they completely changed the game, and all of the media.
And it wasn't just petrol. It wasn't just male petrol heads, as we call them. It was also, they brought in this whole audience of ladies who love the adrenaline and love the connection with the sport. And Netflix helped us become closer to Formula One. Drive to Survive.
Just so many sports. Like the one that they've done on the Tour de France is awesome viewing. Because that's a very impenetrable sport if you just see the highlights of it. But getting the behind the scenes and making personalities, and I guess this goes back to personal brand. When you know the people behind it, when you care about the people behind it, then the sport becomes interesting, regardless of what the sport is, I think.
Yeah, and that's what Welcome to Wrexham's done as well.
Yeah, exactly. He's a marketing genius, though. That's
the two of them are so complementary to each other. But they've turned that tiny little town. You know, we drove past it 4 years ago. My wife and I drove past it and didn't think any more of it. Now we regret not stopping and going to have a beer and doing all that stuff.
Exactly.
Oh, love it. Just love what it's done.
Mate, my tea's done. It's top of the hour. This was awesome. As always, love chatting with you. It's been great to share some ideas and banter about the sport.
Love it.
Best thing ever. Yeah. I think you've been co-opted to do an Ask Me Anything session with the Veblen group sometime soon. So looking forward.
Yes, looking forward to that. That's happening mid-August, I think.
Oh, perfect.
Or somewhere around that, yeah.
Cool. That will be great. But yeah, look, thank you very much for co-hosting this little chat. It was good. We should do it.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for inviting me, and love the conversation. Always love having a chat with you, Callum.
Awesome.
You have
reach out to Daz in the comments or follow him on LinkedIn and go from there.